Two Broads and a Brit, where we bring you paranormal bits to get on your tits. I am Lynn Hartram. I'm here with Caitlin Greer.
How's it hanging?
And Lee Hazelnut.
It's hanging low, thank you, Caitlin. Thank you for asking.
I was hoping you would pick that one up. I'm so glad that you did.
How it always is, hanging low. Yeah.
I'll set them up, you knock them down. That's how we're going to do it. Awesome. Yep. Yeah, that's it.
So it's quite a morning.
It's been a morning.
Caitlin and I are delirious at this point.
Yeah.
So
sorry, guys.
let's see how it goes.
We took like 2 weeks off, and now we forgot how to do everything.
Right.
So here we go. Yep. So Lynn has total control over this episode today, and I have no fucking clue what she's talking about because I didn't do any homework.
That's
Well,
okay.
I can kind of match that because Lynn, you sent me the link of a couple of YouTube videos that you are going to talk about, and because of the copyright thing, it wouldn't fucking work. So,
did you try Googling it?
Oh, that'd be sensible, Lynn, wouldn't it? No.
So essentially, Lee and I have done jack shit, and Lynn has done all of it.
So we're going to talk about a TV show that only I have seen.
Please tell us more.
I'm fucking useless, and Caitlin's my assistant. So
yeah.
No, actually, this is a subject you are fairly well versed in, Lee.
So I'm useless.
Caitlin will be everyday Joe Schmo who may not know so much about it and ask, I'm sure, hard-hitting questions.
That's what I'm good at.
And make excellent comments.
Oh, yep, I'm here.
Okay.
All right.
So the show. What is the show we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about the show Unidentified, Inside America's UFO Investigation.
Ooh.
Smashing.
It's a good show. It's on the History Channel. And everybody has seen those, like, Navy UFO videos, or they call them UFOs, or UAPs, which is Unidentified Aerial Phenomena.
Okay.
That is the new term for them. Same thing as UFO.
Okay.
Just a different way to say it. So, we've seen there's 3 different videos that have been put out now.
Mm-hmm.
And they've all been filmed by Navy fighter pilots while in the air, seeing something weird, tracked it, trying to figure out what it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's one that they call the White Tic Tac, which I've also heard called the Supersonic Tic Tac, which is the greatest name ever.
Is there any particular
it's a good band name.
Tic Tac, Lynn?
It's white, so whatever the white flavor is, I don't know what that is. Spearmint, maybe? Or
can you see these? Are these videos like public?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they've been in the news and everything. Like
I
CNN.
Clearly don't.
I will send them to you later so you can see them.
Yeah. News.
Then there's one that looks like a little white ball, basically. And then there's another one, which is really fascinating, that looks like, they describe it like a gyroscope, but it reminds me, which I think is like a top, when we were kids, you have little tops that you spin, and it's kind of got a wide outer middle and then 2 points on the end.
It reminds me about when my children and I used to polish my gyroscope, Lynn.
Oh, no. Here we go.
How long did we make it? I didn't start the stopwatch.
I didn't say anything rude. I was just saying,
Gyroscope, telescope,
whatever. Just your scope.
Periscope.
Periscope.
Stethoscope. Polish them all.
Periscope. That's when you're in the ocean.
Yeah.
It's the periscope.
Up periscope.
Yeah, we've all had a game of up periscope in our time, haven't we? Sat in the bath, No?
I have not had that game.
Oh, all right.
Don't have the equipment.
You don't know what you're missing, then.
You're bathing with the wrong people, Lynn.
This
got away real quick.
Yeah, it's better if you put bubble bath in it as well. Then
we're talking about UFOs.
Get on with
all right, I'm reeling it back in. Tell me more about the Tic Tacs.
Okay, no more peni. Is that the plural of penis?
Penises.
I think it should be peni. That's what I'm going with.
We're on peni probation.
Okay. So, yes. So we've got these UFO videos, which is, in and of itself, the fact that they released these videos is amazing.
Yep.
Because Lee and I both have been involved with the UFO community for quite a while now, and everybody has always been pushing for disclosure. people have witnessed things. I mean, so many people have recorded things. Lights in the sky, different things they've seen. There's pictures out there. Some of them are fake, some of them not. But this is the first time that the military or the government has ever released their own videos.
Right.
Which is fantastic. So this show is, it involves Tom DeLonge, who we know is involved with the release of these videos. He's been working with different people in the government to try and help, move disclosure forward. Luis Elizondo, who they call Lou on the show, and he claims that he worked in the program that the government developed to investigate UFOs. Basically, it's called
AATIP.
I should know this. Yeah, ATIP. It's like Advanced Aerospace Technology. I don't know.
You called it ATIP.
ATIP. Yeah.
They couldn't come up with a better name. Double ATIP.
It's just they refer to it as ATIP. It is double ATIP though. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Q-tip. That's what I'm part of. The Q-tip crew.
Oh, basically,
okay.
He was a part
they don't
of
have your mind, I think.
what you would call X-Files within the government.
Right. Yes.
No.
Yes.
I get it. I just think it's a really poor name. Whoever is in charge of naming the groups.
I think they just don't have your mindset.
Yeah, I guess so.
Let's name it ATIP.
ATIP. Every pervert in America is going to love this one.
Oh my god. So with Tom DeLonge and Luis Elizondo, there's Chris Mellon, who is the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense and Intelligence. So has a long career in government. I'm not going to go into his background. You can look him up. Because I'm tired. Sorry. It is what it is, people.
Right.
And then Steve Justice, who I think is one of the more fascinating characters out of this play. He's a former Lockheed Skunk Works employee, which I don't know what that is.
I'm familiar.
So Lockheed,
Do you hear how annoyed she was that I didn't know it?
God, I gotta explain it again.
Yeah.
No, there's probably people who don't. So Lockheed Skunk Works is a branch of Lockheed, which is like an aviation or aeronautics development organization or company. And Lockheed Skunk Works is their really top secret, ultra high tech planes. This is where the stealth bomber was created.
All right.
The SR-71, the greatest plane ever invented.
Okay, Lynn just got a plane boner.
Yep.
Okay.
We will. Sorry, plane nerd.
I'm into it.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. I do have
Your
that in
your
here.
dad was on the Air
Sure, I can
Force.
put it in.
Your
What's
dad
that?
was in the Air Force, Lynn.
Oh, have you heard that? Yeah.
Well, I've heard it somewhere. It might answer the fact why you lived in 47 different countries before you were 13 years old. Yeah.
Within three years of each other.
Yeah.
We moved every 2 weeks, yes. Every 2 weeks we moved. It was a very busy childhood.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where this show starts. And I believe I don't know if they're going to continue it. As of right now, it's like a 6-part series.
Okay.
So there's only 6 videos. The 5th one just came out this week. Yes.
Right.
I'll watch them. I'll watch them.
Yeah, they're really good, though you probably won't need to.
Yeah.
So just a spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen these and does want to see them, I am going to go over most of the information in the videos.
So we're going to save you the time.
You are, yeah. So we're here to help.
You're welcome.
Yep. So they are basically looking in depth at these 3 military UFO videos, and they're trying to corroborate the evidence with the pilots who were flying or different people who were there, because they all took place over the ocean. One was in the Pacific Ocean and 2 of them were in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
These all had to do with the Navy. They were all on carrier boats. So these pilots were taking off from the boat. So there were people with, the radar operators, the pilots themselves, people on board the ship. So a lot of people experienced these and saw these. So they were trying to find I'm so sorry. My brain is just not working today because I'm tired. Witnesses. That's the word. It's a tough one. Okay. So they were trying to find witnesses. And Caitlin's out. That's it. We lost her.
What's that word? Oh, it's a tough one. Oh.
Witnesses.
Witnesses.
Okay.
All right, go.
Okay. So they were trying to find witnesses to this. So that's it. We're done. See you later, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so yes. So when Elizondo ran the Department of, or the Defense Department Initiative, the ATIP program.
Okay.
Oh, here, I did write it out what it means. Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program.
All right.
That's what it stands for. He compiled a list of extraordinary logic-defying capabilities. I got this from the History Channel website, so you guys can go and look too. Most commonly associated with unidentified aerial phenomena sightings. He called these traits the 5 observable. 5 observables. I'm gonna get through this. Damn it.
We can do it.
Okay. So, 5 observables. They talk about this in the show. The first one is, and I did also take this from the History Channel website, so I'm going to read it word for word for you guys. Maybe not all of them, because some of them are a little lengthy and unnecessary.
Yeah.
So the first one is anti-gravity lift. Unlike any known aircraft, these objects have been sighted overcoming the Earth's gravity with no visible means of propulsion. They also lack any flight surfaces such as wings, which I don't know that that's accurate because I know that there have been UFO sightings where they did have wings. Betty and Barney Hill described the UFO that they encountered did have wings. So I don't know that that's necessary. Number 2, sudden and instantaneous acceleration. These objects may accelerate or change direction so quickly that no human pilot could survive the G-forces. They would be crushed. That's a pretty common one for UFO sightings. People will see it. It's like, looks like a standing still. It takes off.
Gone.
Yeah.
That's the sound they make too.
It is the sound, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just like that. I knew it. They're silent other than that sound.
I knew it.
This one's interesting. Now this, yes?
Oh, just to jump in, it basically, Chile, the country Chile in South America, has been doing this for years. Basically, they've done the reverse, what America never does. All the juicy bits that America can't explain, they hold back. Whereas in Chile, the government say, right, well, this 5% that we can't explain, you can push it. They push it onto the public, but they've been doing that for years.
Quite a few South American countries.
Yeah, they said, well, we don't have a fucking clue what it is. You figure it out for yourselves.
Yeah, that's true.
There you go. But for America to do this is quite big. It's quite big.
It really is.
It really
is.
Yeah.
It is huge, for sure. Okay, so number 3, hypersonic velocities without signatures. So this is in regards to videos. So a lot of these videos, they're filmed on the airplanes, and they have IR videos, so infrared videos.
Right.
So they can see heat signatures. So they'll see these planes flying at these super sonic velocities or supersonic speeds, but there's no heat signature. So with any type of aircraft that we have, that we know of, there are always, the propulsion system always creates heat. So it's extremely odd to see something that doesn't. We don't have anything that we know of at this point in time that does not do this. Okay, number 4, low observability or cloaking. Even when objects are observed, getting a clear and detailed view of them, either through pilot sightings, radar, or other means, remains difficult. Witnesses generally only see the glow or haze around them. So, in other words, it's hard to see any details of these crafts.
Okay.
Usually, they'll say they're glowing. Like you think of the Foo Fighters in World War II. The pilots talked about Foo Fighters, which were like glowing red or orange balls of light that would fly with the planes. And then the last one, number 5, is transmedium travel. Some UAP have been seen moving easily in and between different environments, such as space, the Earth's atmosphere, and even water. So they kind of are like all-purpose vehicles. They can go in all 3 of those mediums.
So these are the 5 things that they're focusing on?
Yes, these are what they call the 5 observables. This is what we can see these things doing this. This is going to classify it as a UAP, which is what he refers to.
So that's what,
yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm dumb.
Part of the classification system.
I'm stupid.
No, you're not.
It's okay.
You're
I'm uneducated.
You're smart. Okay, so the first video they're looking at is the Tic Tac video. And it literally just looks like a white Tic Tac. It's kind of a, I don't know, looks like a Tic Tac. We all know what a Tic Tac looks like. Okay, I don't need to describe. And they figured out that it was from the USS Nimitz. and the USS Princeton also. The USS Nimitz, at the time that it was deployed, had, I think, several ships with it, and the USS Princeton was with it. So people on the USS Princeton were able to corroborate the information. This took place from November 10th through the 16th, so it was a series of events. It wasn't just one singular event.
Cool. Okay.
And this was in 2004. I'll get through it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just going to kind of give you, this took place over 2 or 3 episodes. So I'm just going to summarize it for you. They interviewed, and I hope I wrote these all down correctly, 2 Navy pilots. And Caitlin, you're going to like this guy. And I believe he's up in New Hampshire, so he's near our neck of the woods.
Why, is he attractive?
Well, you know how all pilots have like their, what are they called?
Their call signs?
Yes. It was written, and I have it to show you. There is paperwork, and they do have this, I think they have this on the History Channel's website. Okay, so this is supposed to be declassified documents that talk about the Nimitz events.
Right.
And I believe that George Knapp, the investigative journalist, was the one who got these. And he says they went to Washington, they did some research, and they found these declassified documents. There's nothing on these documents that say they are military documents of any kind, no names, no dates, nothing. So, you know,
well,
I don't know. There's no proof, really.
Yeah, I mean, if George Knapp is behind it, I mean, he's quite credible, isn't he? So he's the one.
He is quite credible, but there is, I mean, I was like, so this, I don't know if you can see this, and for those in the podcast, I'm sorry, there's nothing at the top of this sheet.
Hang on.
So there's nothing, usually it will say, you know, have a classification, top secret. Right. It might have, you know, like United States Navy, nothing. There's nothing on these sheets. So, you know, kind of take it for what it is, I guess. So
it's a bit like my exam papers at school. There was fuck all on the sheet.
That's what it looks like. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it does. Sat there for 2 hours, wrote nothing. Yeah.
So back to the 2 pilots. So there was one that was a female, and she wanted to remain anonymous, so we don't know who she was. Her face was blacked out. Her voice was changed.
Okay.
She's still currently a pilot in the Navy.
Okay,
and
which
I think
makes sense.
Just didn't want to affect her career.
Right.
And then there was Commander. Can you read this? That's his call sign right there.
Sex? Just Sex? David Sex? What's his last name?
Fravor.
Fravor? Yeah. His call sign was Sex?
Evidently.
How do you get that call sign? Who are you giving it to? Oh my God.
I know, when I saw that.
They put that shit on the side of the planes. They put that shit on their jackets. It just says sex everywhere. Sex all over the Navy.
He's clearly a man who slept his way to the top. Yeah.
Evidently. I mean, he's
either that or he's just like putting it out there.
Busy boy, busy. He's older now. He's a good looking guy.
Maybe it's like one of those nicknames though. You know how it's like if you know like a really short person, you call him like, "Hey, big guy," right? Like, maybe. So maybe it's just like.
I thought you were going to say Stumpy for a minute.
No, you call him the opposite.
The opposite, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's like I said, he's older now, but you can tell he's still a fairly good-looking guy.
David Sex. What's his last name?
Fravor.
I'm gonna find him.
You can Google him, I'm sure, to see.
I wonder if he'll do me a favor.
He might do you a favor. He's married now, but he is up in New Hampshire. So they talked to the 2 pilots. They talked to 2 to 3 radio operators. I couldn't remember exactly how many, but there were about 2 to 3. And then there was one guy who was the top security officer, and I believe he was on the USS Princeton. Okay, not the Nimitz, but I'm not 100% because I did not write that down. That's just going from memory, which is questionable at this point in time. And there was also a Department of Defense personnel lady. She wanted to remain anonymous too. I think she still works in the government. So she talked about it. And one of the things, I found this interesting. This was kind of like a random insert into the show, but honestly, people, come on. If this is true, get your act together. All right. So she was talking about how there are difficulties in the government getting these government officials to research these things. I mean, that was the big issue that they had was we have proof that these things are happening. Why isn't anybody researching it? Right. They're not saying that they're extraterrestrial craft. They're saying maybe these are our craft, secret, you know.
Right.
things that are, things that are just, they're testing. Maybe they're craft from another country spying on us.
Right.
But they're messing with our pilots. Why isn't any of this being investigated?
Mm-hmm.
And she said that there are religious fundamentalists in the government that believe these things are demonic and therefore they will not research them.
I've heard of the old demonic tic tac. I've heard of it. It's a scary one. It's a scary tale.
Yes, it's Satan's vehicle.
So basically, this Tic Tac has come out of the depths of hell. And
yeah.
I've had enough around hell. I'm going to just basically float around the Pacific and have a look around there. And then, when I'm hungry, I'll go back down to hell, because that's what happens.
Right, yeah. I mean, Lucifer's taking a ride. He wanted to see what's happening.
Hop in the old Tic Tac mobile.
It's like the Jetsons. I just imagine, like, as it's going.
That was a really good.
Isn't it good?
Yeah.
See, my noises come in handy sometime.
I'm impressed.
So just quick question here. So this Tic Tac video was 2004.
Yes.
And they've only just released it.
Yes, that's correct.
15 years later, they've released it. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, for our government. Yeah, we're lucky they've released it already.
Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a step in the right direction, but it's like 15 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So the other two videos are more recent. But we'll get into those too.
Yeah.
Adjust my spectacles. Okay. All right. So, the demon thing. I mean,
that's great, isn't it?
I don't even know what to say about that. Yeah, like, come on.
All
really?
I can picture is a bunch of like old church ladies being like, "Oh Lord, the Tic Tac's coming to take us away. Jesus, pray for us, pray for us." That's it.
It's a sign of the devil.
Yeah.
666. Tick, tick. That's it.
Well, I travelled through the Bible Belt when I went for America, and
why?
Now, where was I? I was in Nashville. And they all come because Nashville's a big party town, and it was fucking atmosphere. It was absolutely banging, and all the God Squad guys were coming down there with the placards and the speakers and the tannoys and saying basically everyone's going to hell. I thought, well, before I go to hell, can I get something to eat first? Because I'm hungry.
Yeah, they have those in Salem, Mass, around Halloween. There's always the God.
When I went out with
Lynn, couple people preaching.
When we went out, Lynn, with Charlie and yourself, no, not Charlie, Piper, but there was a bloke on because everyone was dressed as witches, and there was a bloke on the speaker,
Salem,
generally just standing there doing a good job of getting on people's tits for a good hour or so.
It's true.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that could be a whole nother show. I've read so many things. Do this. Enough with the demons. It's another subject that I'm very interested in, but they are not aliens, so suck it. Okay.
Suck my telescope.
So they talked about.
Oh my Lord.
What did you say?
Nothing. Caitlin said it on the show before. Right.
Oh, did you?
Probably.
Calling you out.
I mean, I most definitely did. I don't doubt it.
We were talking about a flat earther, and you said, "Oh, was it Mark Sargent can go suck my telescope or something?"
Sounds about right.
You said that.
The worst.
You're not the worst.
Okay.
So, people described on these series of episodes several different UFOs or UAPs. So there was the white Tic Tac, and the way they described it was a white Tic Tac shape with a discernible midline horizontal axis. So I'm assuming that's just like you could see there was a seam that went around the middle of it, and approximately 46 feet in length.
Oh, cool! You just answered my question.
Yeah.
So it's quite large, 46 feet in length.
Mm-hmm.
One radar operator described, and there was more than one Tic Tac. So it was just like Tic Tacs in the sky
at a time.
Yes.
Okay.
How far
one radar operator.
Sorry, Lynn. How far above the water was it?
We're going to get into that. as my next thing. But hold on, I got one more thing to tell you.
I know, sorry, we're both like, please tell us questions.
Keeping you on the edge of your seat. Okay, so one radar operator described one of the Tic Tacs going underwater and said that there was a submarine. I can't remember the name of the submarine, but there was a submarine patrolling at the time right in the same waters. And this was in the Pacific off the coast of California. I think it was like Southern California. And he said that there was one of the submarine's sonar operators described it moving as at 70 plus knots, which is well beyond what any of our submarines can go at. Evidently.
We cannot go that fast.
We cannot go that fast. Wah, wah. Okay. Now, to answer your question, Lee, they also described the Tic Tacs going from 60,000 feet above sea level to 50 feet in a matter of seconds. And he said one of the radar operators was the one that was talking about this. I think it was a radar operator. But anyways, they said it was equal to about 30 times the speed of sound.
Oh.
So that would be Mach 30. Which none of our aircraft can do. It's crazy.
What do we even...
The highest is... Oh, I'll get to that too.
Okay.
So this footage...
You guys are good.
I'm really looking forward to seeing this footage. So was it in daytime or at night?
It's hard to tell because it's IR, so you can't really tell what it is. But I believe it was daytime when they filmed it. I think I read somewhere that it was like around 3 p.m. or something like that. So who was saying the speed? Was it you? You guys are like on the ball today, man, because it's like right before I say things, you ask the questions. So 30 times the speed of sound. So I looked up. I was just like, okay, well, what can our planes do? Right. So the two fastest planes we have, the second fastest. Yeah. My favorite.
SR-71.
SR-71 Blackbird. Yeah. Yes. It can reach the speed of Mach 3.3. That's what it's been, officially. But they said that they think there have been times where it may have gone a little faster than that. It's still, so this was created back in the, I should know this, 40s or the 50s. I think the 50s. And it is still to this day, it holds the title for the world's fastest manned air-breathing jet. So the next plane it's rocket powered. So it's a different type of propulsion system. So, And in my notes, it says...
Greatest plane ever. In capital letters. In her own notes. In case she forgot.
So the SR-71 is the number 2 plane. The number 1 plane, fastest plane that we have, is the X-15B. A very cool looking plane. I'd say Google it if you haven't seen it. It's pretty awesome. And it can reach the speed of Mach 6.7, which is pretty crazy.
That's insane.
It is rocket powered. It is also capable of flying not only in the air, but also up into the atmosphere. So it can go up into space.
Is that manned? Like there is...
It's manned, yes. There is a pilot.
It's manned?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a pilot. Yeah.
Right.
I think it's amazing.
Super cool.
I would ride it
totally
in a second.
Sentences you can't say around Caitlin. I would ride it in a second.
Oh my god. Okay, so where were we?
Yeah, change the subject quick.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to. This is okay. So we were talking about the types of UFOs they've seen. So we had the white Tic Tac. Then somebody also described rotating lights in the sky. This was the top security officer that I was mentioning before. He and another officer were out on the deck and they were looking up into the sky, and he kind of described these white lights. They looked similar to stars, but they were rotating around each other, and then they eventually just like disappeared.
Okay.
They were gone, which is a fairly common UFO sighting that does happen to the everyday person too. Right. It's something that's been described quite a bit.
Okay.
Right. Okay. You sounded like you had something more to say, but okay.
I've always got something to say, but I mean...
I know. I was going to say, well, now you give him the opportunity.
Yeah, but even when I'm asleep, I've got something to fucking say. Well, just quickly, a couple of years ago, when I was at the UFO Congress in Phoenix, there was a bloke called Robert Powell, and he basically put this footage. It's the fucking best UFO footage I've ever seen. Absolute dynamite. This thing. Basically, it was in Puerto Rico. This thing about the size of a dustbin, and basically flew over the runway and this military plane, was tracking it, and it was going in and out of the trees in a park, and it was basically basically the size of a dustbin, and it went out to sea.
What is a dustbin? Is that like a trash can?
Trash can, yeah.
Okay.
Trash can.
Okay. Sorry,
And basically, it went out to sea. I heard that. Right, it went out to sea, and then it split into two, and then went underneath the sea. Yeah, it's a series. It reminded me. So my question was: are these Tic Tacs splitting into two, or
no
submersing?
No, they
No,
did see
it's
them
a quick
submerged.
answer.
Fucking no.
No,
No, right?
no.
Okay.
Bitch, sit down. No.
No. I have heard that. I have heard that from other people. They see the lights split into multiple little lights. But no, they didn't describe the Tic Tac as doing that. They did describe it going into the water, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the other way they described them was unknown anomalies on the radar. So that's how a lot of these were first seen. Was the radar operators picked them up, and basically they had the jets go intercept them. So when these things were happening, it was when the so it's called I think it's the Carrier Flight Group was the name of the plane squadron. And so when these happened, these sightings occurred, was when they were doing like practicing, when they were practicing their maneuvers.
Okay.
So they would see these. So they were doing this practice maneuver, and the radar operator spotted several of these things. And so he told his superior, and they said, okay. And they basically called the F-18s and said, okay, now this is a real life event. We need you to go intercept and see what the heck this is. So yeah, that's how the planes found them. Then there was also circular or spherical objects described by they interviewed some fishermen near Guadalupe Island as well. Yeah. And the reason they interviewed the fishermen near Guadalupe Island, so one of the radar operators said that he tracked these UFOs, and he tracked it down to a latitude and longitude, and then they disappeared. And that is right near Guadalupe Island. So they went down to see, is anybody else seeing these things? And so there were like fishermen that said, yeah, we have seen these things.
Cool.
Yep. So that's pretty much the USS Nimitz. In a nutshell.
So the Nimitz and there's videos from this too, right?
The Tic Tac video is from the USS Nimitz.
Okay.
Well, it's from one of the fighter planes.
Okay.
They were like two F-18s that went.
So they send up planes, so they see them on radars and then send up planes. Is that
if they think there's something that needs to be investigated? Yeah, they will send up planes. But these planes were already in the air. They were practicing their maneuvers.
Okay.
And they said, we need you to basically abandon the practice. This is a real life thing. You need to go.
Okay.
And intercept, basically, which means they need to fly over to it and look and see what the hell this is.
Interesting.
So what bit that's grabbed me the most is the fact that it was at 60,000 feet, and basically it could drop to a few feet above the water.
Yeah.
In seconds. In seconds.
In seconds. Yeah, in seconds.
I mean,
so he basically, the guy who was describing it, he said he calculated like from where they were to where it got to and how fast he did it, it would be about Mach 30, which is insane.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So, okay, so the next one's really interesting too. Okay, so these series of encounters took place over the summer of 2014 into 2015. They talked to two Navy pilots. Their names, these guys, and these are active pilots right now, which is really cool that they came forward and talked about this. Because obviously they're risking their careers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was the main guy they kind of talked to was Lieutenant Ryan Graves. And then the other guy, I want to say is Lieutenant, and I might screw up his name. Yeah, it's like Danny Ocon or something like that. It is, yeah, Danny Ocon. I think that's
it's
how you
literally Lieutenant Dan.
Right.
Lieutenant Dan. I didn't even figure that out.
You got no legs.
Lieutenant Dan.
All right.
Yeah, so Danny Ocon, I think. Maybe Ocon. No, it's not Ocon.
Really?
No, it's like Ocon or Ocon, something like that. Sorry, Danny.
Sorry, Danny Ocon Shaquan.
So, not that he'll ever hear this, but you never know. Okay, so these were the other two videos that the Navy released. One is titled "Go Fast," because I believe that the pilot said something like, "Well, these can really go fast," so it got that name.
I can't. We
I
need a
know.
better namer in the government.
I know.
Anyways,
Right.
that's
And
my
then
new
the
job.
other one got the name Gimbal, and I'm not sure
I
how it got the
thought you
name
were gonna
Gimbal. This
say
is the one that
gimp
looks
then.
like no,
That's a different
Maybe that's
episode.
my mind. Maybe that's my mind. I thought you were going to say gimp. Or sorry.
no,
Okay.
didn't. But thank you for that.
Well, that's all right.
It's just a guy in full head to toe leather, just like that. Don't Google GIMP. Don't
Yeah.
do it.
Sorry, Lynn.
Unless you
I,
want
I,
to.
I, can, I can only apologise. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. So yeah, so it's called Gimbal. That's the one that looks like a gyroscope or a top, a spinning top,
Okay.
kind of thing. So they showed.
I'm sorry. I can't control myself today.
It's okay.
Go on.
Still love you anyway. Okay, so they first talked to Ryan Graves, the pilot.
Mhm.
He was the first guy they talked to. He recognized the voices on the video, which they were really excited to hear because obviously they want to talk to those people.
Right.
He recognized them as other pilots that were in his squadron.
Cool.
Yes. So he was like, yes, these are actual pilots. Because there have been some people that said that, oh, maybe these videos are faked.
Right.
Right.
So he was, basically corroborating. So yeah, these were actual pilots. I know these guys.
It's not an actor.
Yeah, exactly. And he says they were filmed over the Atlantic Ocean. So we're in the Atlantic this time. And this was near Jacksonville, Florida.
Hey!
Everything happens in Florida.
Oh, Florida. We love you. Okay, so what did I say? So the gimbal video, Lieutenant Graves says there was the main gyroscope shaped object, and then he watched a longer version. So what we see is only a clip of it, and he saw there was a more clear version. He was not flying at the time, but when these pilots came down, they were like, oh my God, we got this video. You guys have got to see this. So he went down and he watched the video immediately after they got back. He said it was a longer video than what we have. And it was much more clear. And he said there was the main gyroscope, but then there was also, I think, 5 smaller objects. So like 5 kind of spherical objects that were with it. So when you watch the video, you'll hear the pilot say, look, there's a whole fleet of them. That's what they're referring to, the 5 little objects. Because in the video we see, there's only the one object.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And what year was this gimbal one?
This is, I'm not sure. I can't remember. It was either 2014 or 2015.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So recent.
This is more recent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this was 2014.
Yeah, you did say. So.
And then, he said the Go Fast was basically one of those small spherical objects that was in the other video, the 5 of them.
Right.
This basically, they were one. And you can see the pilot has a hard time tracking it because it's going so fast.
Right.
It doesn't look super fast on the video, but you got to remember the plane's going pretty fast too.
Right.
But you can see he's struggling to get it, within the little scope thing to be able to lock on and track it. So he says, let me see, what did I write? Summer 2014 on ocean near Virginia Beach, one of his colleagues was flying and saw this I thought was really interesting, a flying cube within a sphere.
Yeah.
Which I'd never heard of before. Like, I've talked to a lot of people. I've never heard of this before. So the way they kind of did a drawing or a computer graphics kind of representation of it, it looks like a cube within a clear, transparent sphere. And he said the corners of the cube were touching the sphere.
So it's like a cube and a hamster.
Yeah.
In one of those little hamster balls.
Yeah.
Okay. It was like a, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I thought that was
what would be the purpose of that? I mean,
who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's some sort of shield. Yeah, shield of some sort. That's I don't know. Maybe it's some sort of electromagnetic field or something. I don't know.
Just okay. The one before. I mean, sorry, going back. Because it dropped from 60,000 feet to a few feet above water. He said,
back to the Nimitz. Okay, yeah.
No, I didn't know. Just because these things are obviously doing the same speed as well. But you say, no human could withstand that. because of the G.
Right.
But no extraterrestrial could probably withstand that either.
Well, we don't know. We don't know
Maybe
what
they
they're
could.
made of.
Maybe their guts aren't like our guts.
I mean, I was watching this morning. I was
But you
watching
would-
a show about like life on Earth, basically, and they were talking about how they discovered down the bottom of the ocean near these thermal vents that they thought there would be no life because the pressure was so high, and it was teeming with life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah,
Right.
well, I suppose that's an assumption that we're basing anything on humans rather than
Right.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah,
problem
fair
with
enough.
all of the skeptics. They say, these things. Oh, well, we could never, we couldn't. It's too far away. We couldn't travel. Blah blah. They're basing it all on one, our anatomy, and two,
Yeah.
our technology,
Right.
which is ridiculous.
Right.
That we are a fairly young solar system.
Well, yeah, I mean,
compared
it's
to
a bit
all
like
the
saying,
other
it'd
solar
be
system galaxies.
Right.
it'd be like a human saying, well, nothing can live in the sea because we can't breathe in it. Whereas
Right.
Right.
a fish has gills,
Right.
isn't it? So it adapts and
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
It's completely
yeah.
different. It's
Yeah.
adapted to that. Yeah. So
yeah.
who knows? And who knows what their technology is? They may have technology that shields them from the G-force. Maybe that's what the sphere was. Or
Hamster balls.
no, I think the sphere was fairly
Yeah.
small, so little aliens, if it were
Little
aliens.
tiny guys. Just little nuggets.
Yeah. Super smart bacteria.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to
Sorry.
so no, that's okay. So these other videos, they were on board. And this is Lieutenant Graves. They didn't know this information before, but he told them they were on board the ship, the USS Theodore Roosevelt. And at one point, I don't know if this was on the Roosevelt or not, or if this, I think maybe was like a pilot friend of his. I can't remember. But he said at one point they saw these objects offered like the I think it was off the coast of Virginia Beach, but somewhere in that vicinity. But it was basically like within 50 miles of our nation's capital. And yet they're still not looking into what this is.
Right.
So if this is some sort of threat, they're still not looking into it.
Right.
Which makes no sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a threat. And then he said in March 2015, the USS Roosevelt was deployed to the Middle East, and they saw these objects again in the Arabian Gulf. So one, they're following them, or they were there, or different ones were there.
Right.
Yeah.
And he said that if it was another country's technology, it would be a huge deal because basically this fly zone is mandated towards Americans only.
Right.
So there shouldn't be any other aircraft in the air other than ours.
Yeah, if it's 50 miles from American soil, you'd think no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
We should know what it is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you think well, they are pushing their luck a little bit,
Right. Yeah.
We
for
should
sure.
really shoot them down,
It's
Right.
like the ultimate game of ding dong ditch, where they're just like,
Well,
beep.
What you
See
play
how
in your
close we
bedroom,
can get.
Caitlin, is your business.
Hey.
I've never heard of the game. I don't know.
I know. I've never been known to ditch a ding dong.
She sees it through. She's no quitter.
Off air, you're gonna have to explain Ditch Ding Dong or whatever it is. I mean, maybe it's the sequel to
you
King
don't know
Kong.
what
but I don't
Ding
know,
dong ditch
but-
is a game.
No.
So Ding Dong Ditch is a game that you play when you're a kid, where you ring a doorbell, ring somebody's front doorbell, and run away.
We call that Knockdown Ginger.
Well, of course.
Why the fuck? At least ours makes sense. Is you ding dong and you ditch. Knock down ginger? Really?
It's called Knockdown Ginger. Yeah, you get by all means.
Can you only
Google it.
play
It's
with a redhead?
No, it only is after. Yeah, it's called Knockdown Ginger.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, well,
And you say Americans are weird.
right? At least we're literal.
We're not just like, oh, we're going to call this Seahorse Jones.
I like Ding Dong Ditch. I quite like that. Yeah.
Ding Dong Ditch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does it make sense?
It's just called Knockdown Ginger. Yeah.
Well, your childhood was fucking weird.
No argument.
Welcome.
Yeah, like my adulthood isn't weird either. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, that's
As we sit
good.
here right now.
Oh, Lordy. So like I said, they were off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. They saw these objects. Within 50 miles of Washington, D.C., they saw these objects. And then in 2015, when they got deployed to the Middle East, they saw these objects again while they were in the Arabian Gulf. So these objects are, and the way he described it was, he said that it got to the point that they were seeing these objects so often that every time the pilots flew, they encountered these objects on a daily basis. They were encountering
they
these
were
objects.
making friends.
Yeah, so they were checking them out.
It's like when puppies play together, right? You're like,
oh,
my friend is back. Oh,
exactly.
So excited.
They're the puppies of the alien world. No. So they were saying, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry, I keep jumping in, but one of the things I like to do when I go to America, other than eat Dunkin' Donuts, is when we land in America, you know, when you all shuffle off the plane and the captain comes out and they say, goodbye, thanks for flying.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things I always like to ask the captain or what looks like a pilot is, have you ever seen a UFO?
Oh boy, I bet they love that. What do they say?
He just said, just get off the fucking plane, mate.
Yeah. Get off the plane, you crazy bastard.
They just keep going. Have a nice day, sir.
Thank you for joining us.
No, jokes aside, I did ask one guy. I always ask it if I can. But one guy started to tell a story, and the guy next to him was really uncomfortable with the other guy. Something, yeah.
Wow, really interesting.
Yeah.
Stupid, uncomfortable piece of crap,
right?
Wrecking the good story.
Yeah, he didn't. He
could have had a good story.
Yeah.
So you were close to having a good story.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, so basically, he said, Lieutenant Graves said that the squadron had filed a report with the Naval Aviation Safety Office, and nothing was done.
Sounds about right.
Because his concern was, because these things were flying around the jets, and he, I think he himself witnessed, or somebody else in his squadron, that at one point the two planes, okay, so it was I don't know if they were F-18s at this point in time. I could be wrong. But anyways, the two planes were flying near each other, kind of side by side, and one of the objects went in between them.
Oh, scary. So
his concern was that there would be a midair collision.
Right.
Yeah. So, and the other pilots were concerned as well, not just him. So let's see. Oh, they also had the videos, those two videos of the gimbal and the Go Fast video analyzed by two other pilots that were kind of objective. They weren't involved with this at all. There was one who was a lieutenant colonel. He was a former fighter jet pilot. And then there was a former commercial airline pilot. And he now consults for the National Transportation Safety Board. And they were, kind of like, oh, this is crazy. Wow, we don't really know what this is. We have no explanation. For the spherical Go Fast object, they remarked that it was flying at a high rate of speed without a conventional propulsion system, as there was no sign of heat, which we kind of talked about as one of the observables. And then the gimbal. So in the video, the gimbal video, the gyroscope-shaped object rotates. So the two, if you think of like a top, has the points on the top and the bottom. So it basically rotated like sideways.
Okay.
And all of the pilots that saw this video remarked, how is it still in the sky? Because our planes,
right,
and it was kind of like, it wasn't moving very fast at that point in time. It slowed down. So basically, they said it wouldn't be able to do that. Like, we don't understand the physics of how that.
So it's turning upside down.
It turns sideways.
So yeah.
So if you think of like a plane that has wings, the wings would be on the top and the bottom, but it had slowed down. It didn't continue accelerating. It had kind of like slowed down. And so it didn't lose any altitude and it didn't drop out of the sky. And they were like, we don't understand, that defies like all the laws of like physics that we understand, like aeronautics. Okay, so Christopher Mellon, the former secretary dude, I don't want to go through his whole title again because it's long and I'm tired, said that he was going to go meet with the members of Congress about this, because he's like, this, whatever this is,
Right.
something needs to be done, because why are our pilots being subjected to this?
Right.
This could be a safety issue for them. It could be a safety issue for the US if this is a, an enemy country that, like, this is their technology and they're spying on us, and yet we're not looking into it at all.
Right, because you're just calling people crazy
Yeah,
instead, 'cause
exactly.
it's easier. Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought this was interesting, not surprising, but interesting. So he made this comment, and he said, "The alien angle is the biggest impediment to progress on this issue, and I want to steer clear of it." So basically, he is going in saying, like, not even talking about this being potentially alien or ET technology, but that it might be some other technology, someone else on Earth has created this technology.
Right.
He wasn't even going to approach the fact that it could be alien technology, because the moment he did that, basically they would shut off. Like,
Right.
Okay, we're not even
crazy.
we're not going to touch this.
Yeah.
And he said after the meeting that the lawmakers, so I guess the Congress people, persons, I don't want to say congressmen because there's women too.
I've said enough about congressmen on the shows.
Right, yes.
I think I've said my piece.
Those.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I didn't silence my phone. Fantastic. So basically, he said that they had already spoken to the USS Nimitz pilots, which he wasn't aware of, and they were aware that this was not an isolated incident with the Nimitz. And they now want to meet with the military pilots that are coming forward, which is fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so now they do want to hear from it, this group of Congress people. So the other person they talked to, as I said, was Lieutenant Danny Aquan.
Lieutenant Dan.
Yes. He looked at the videos. He and Lieutenant Graves looked at the videos together. He, at one point, remarks that he thinks they could have been a drone. The objects, possible,
right?
But they also said neither pilot can disregard the fact that the objects may have been technology controlled by the U.S. or another country. So they're still open to the fact that it might be something that we have, some top secret technology that we have, or another country's technology that we're just not aware of.
Right.
And I thought this was interesting. I think the producer or somebody asked Lieutenant Dan.
I can't
pronounce his last name, so he's going to be Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan.
I've got your ass correct.
Yeah. So they asked Lieutenant Dan if he knew of anything that we had developed that had the capabilities that they saw in the videos, and his response was that he didn't know if he wanted to go there. That was it.
Oh.
Okay. So maybe he does know something.
It's very cryptic.
So I thought that was interesting because he was the one who said, well, it could have been a drone, and the one that said, well, I'm not going to go there when they asked him about technology.
Right.
So his first thought was the drone.
Right. So
maybe there is something that we have.
We've got drones.
Yes. So, okay, so my dude, Steve Justice, he's the guy who he's the former employee of Lockheed Skunk Works.
Okay.
He was looking at these as a whole and said, okay, the questions we need to ask are where and when are these objects seen?
Right.
They're near carriers while doing workups. So when the pilots are practicing, that's when they see these things.
Yeah.
He said that's a great time to spy on an adversary. So we do need to keep that in mind. And he was like, my greatest fear is that the adversary did figure this technology out, and we're just way behind.
Right.
He also admits that there are too many pieces of the puzzle that don't make sense, and it represents a set of capabilities that seem new to everybody. So when he said this, he and Lou Elizondo were talking, and basically, so both of them know, and they have admitted they know information they can't divulge.
Right. Well,
they're still, they can't divulge anything that's, top secret or above.
Yeah.
And
Nick
they both thought. What's that?
Nick Pope is still the same to this day.
Yes.
He's Ministry of Defence, British guy, Caitlin. He worked for the MOD for 3 years, I think it was, investigating UFOs over British airspace. He does talks at these UFO conferences, and he says, no, I swore a life oath that I can reveal some bits and some I can't.
Right.
I mean, if it's still classified,
or in fine. So even until he's died today, he can't reveal everything. So these are being a similar situation.
Yes.
They have to.
Basically, they said they showed like Steve kind of talking to Lou, and he was like, look, you have to segment yourself. There are things that are classified that you just can't discuss. So you have to kind of segment that off. But both of them said that they didn't think it was an enemy country. And Lou made an interesting statement, because they didn't talk about this anywhere else in the show. But he claims the Russian and the Chinese are, and I put this in quotes, in the same boat that we are when it comes to these phenomena. So they must be experiencing these things too.
Right.
Which is interesting. And he must have knowledge of that, because he said it like very definitively. Like, I don't think it's them, because they're experiencing it as well. Okay. So, the most recent episode. So this was interesting. It kind of diverged a little bit from the others. This was the episode that was just on this week. And it's they talked about how even presidents find out when they become president. A lot of presidents want to know the UFO information. They want the UFO files, and most often they find out they don't have the clearance.
I heard that somewhere else recently too. That
Ben Hansen.
Well, I mean.
Yeah, when Ben Hansen, when he was at UFO Congress, he did this really good talk on stage where he showed footage of Bill Clinton, Obama, W. Bush, I think, or whatever. Footage, because it's Ben's ex-FBI, isn't he? He basically he shows these presidents being quizzed and questioned on UFOs. Right, when they chat shows and stuff like that. And what Ben was doing was he was zooming in on like their breathing rate or their body language and stuff like that. And basically they're all sweating and their heart. You can see Obama's heart fucking going. He's clearly not happy on the subject. But Ben was saying, why should the president know? Because they're only there temporary. They're only there for 4 years, 8 years maximum, and then they're gone. Why should they be divulged that they're a visitor to the president? They're not there permanent.
Well, I think that's surprising to most people, though. You think that the president is kind of like the top of the chain. He should have the security clearance, to see anything. But that, in reality, is not the case. Right. Well, and, everybody, anybody who is in the UFO community who's listening to this, everybody knows top secret is not the highest classification. There are, I believe, 11 levels above top secret.
And they call everybody them because I didn't know.
You're not in the UFO community.
Oh.
That's what I said.
Sorry.
No. No, but that's why I'm talking about it. There are, they call it above top secret, and I believe, if I remember correctly, there are about 11 levels above top secret.
It's a bit like the
and they have stupid names.
It's a bit like the Freemasons, then, isn't it? Once you get in,
exactly.
Level. I've got
the 33rd level.
Got to the top.
Scientology, right?
No, you haven't.
You have to pay us $20,000 to find out.
Isn't there
33rd level master secret?
Lynn, you'll know this because your dad was in the Air Force. But is there
maybe?
What?
No, I said maybe. I wasn't in the Air Force, so go ahead.
No, this isn't a joke about where you've lived. Isn't there a clearance called Eyes Only?
Yes, there is. I don't know that from my dad, but yes, I do know that.
All right.
There is. But I think that also was something they used to put on documents. I don't know. It would be like for, so-and-so eyes only.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of the above top secret names are really stupid. Like, ultra secret, or
we have the
extra secret.
Worst
they're terrible.
Naming.
No, they should just recall it. They just call one of them. Don't fucking tell anyone.
Right. Exactly.
One's just shh.
Yeah. Shh. Secret.
The next one is promise not to tell.
The next one is pinky swear.
Pinky swear. Ooh, that's a harsh one. You don't want to know what happens to you if you can tell people about the pinky swear.
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, blimey.
Stupid. Okay, so yes. All right. So let's see. What else did they talk about? So this episode, basically in a nutshell, was talking about how UFOs are often seen near nuclear facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they were looking at the connection between UFOs and these nuclear facilities. They talked about, they interviewed a guy that was in McCluskey, North Dakota. Sorry, McCluskey. In 2003, he witnessed a diamond-shaped craft, and he said it came right over him. He saw it was like right above him, within like 100 feet, and so he saw the craft really well. And he was able to describe it and everything. And it was interesting. It was a diamond-shaped craft, so kind of like three-dimensional diamond,
like that.
Yeah, like a diamond-shaped craft,
okay.
And then
this Dusky bloke, was he in the military then?
I don't know. It didn't say what he did, or if it did, I just wasn't paying attention. It was just I don't remember how he found this guy, but Lou was talking to him, Lou Elizondo, and then they were looking at a map because he said that I think it's Minot Air Force Base is within like 75 miles of this guy's house, and in between there, Lou made the comment, and I find this hard to believe, and I hope it's not true. He said that in between this guy's house in McCluskey and Minot Air Force Base, there are 30 to 40 nuclear sites.
30 to 40?
Right. I was like, what?
Right.
I'm hoping that's not true. But we'll just go with there were multiple nuclear sites.
That's a lot. It's ridiculous. In 75 miles? Is that what you said?
Within like a 75 miles span.
A lot.
Like, really? Do we need that many? Really? I mean, one
it's
won't
like
do.
Every 2 miles.
Won't do.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So, and yet we get on everybody else for having nuclear facilities. We just hide. We're just assholes. We're like, we're the only ones that can have these. You can't have them. No, this is ours.
Just to add on that, the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident.
Stop! That's what I'm talking about next.
Oh right, sorry. Fucking hell, I'm gonna.
Damn you guys!
Psychic.
Damn it!
Goodbye.
Well, sorry, you mentioned nuclear. Well, yeah, all right. Sorry. All right. Fucking hell, she's touching, isn't she?
She's psychic. Well, we're
you guys
psychic
keep doing
today.
this. You're jumping ahead.
We're segueing.
Okay.
She's acting like she's had a late
talk
night.
About Rendlesham. Yes, I know, right? Okay, so we will touch on Rendlesham, but let me just talk. There was a couple other things. So at Minot Air Force Base in 1966, nuclear missiles were activated when a UFO was hovering over them, and then deactivated when the UFO left. So they did not activate these. It was associated with the UFO. They were kind of like, what the fuck? Who just activated these nuclear bombs? And then when the UFO left, it deactivated. Cool. Interesting.
Right.
And Maelstrom Air Force Base, one that the UFO community is also very familiar with. This is a classic example that we all kind of know about. 1967, there was a glowing red oval-shaped object which hovered over their site, and all 10 of the nuclear missiles were deactivated. Like, it just shut them all off.
Yeah.
Shouldn't they be off anyways?
Well, it shut them offline.
Oh.
Like, turned them off.
Okay.
Turned it off. Yeah.
Like,
I think if I'm remembering correctly, and I could be wrong, that basically, like, all the power went off.
Cool.
I'm not 100% on that, but I know the missiles were turned off. Okay. So then, Lee, do you know this guy? Lord Hill Norton.
He lives next door.
Yes, he looks like he could live in the graveyard. I'm not sure if he's still alive. He's quite elderly.
I love the fact you just.
But he comes on.
The graveyard is my next door neighbours. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but he comes on, which is great because they're talking to these guys like from, North Dakota, like, I saw this glowing red sphere. And then you hear this Lord Hill Norton talking about Rendlesham Forest. Well, back in 1980, yes, I've seen him in something else. I can't remember, but he was a character.
Right.
So basically, he starts the intro into the Rendlesham incident. This happened in 1980, and this was at RAF Bentwaters. So basically, it's a U.S. Now, is Bentwaters the U.S. air?
I'm not sure you had
base, or is that the British one?
You had.
I think Bentwaters is the air. I think that Bentwaters is the U.S. one.
I can't remember. It's split into two. It's wood.
Yes.
One begins with wood something.
I don't remember. They only talked about
and wood.
Yeah.
I
can't remember. They only talked about Bentwaters, so I'm gonna go with that's the American one.
When the craft landed, it was full of Americans. It was the U.S.
Full of Americans. Yes, that's us coming over. Hey, here we are, coming to fuck up your shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's give a brief background on for the people that don't know Bentwaters.
That would be me,
Caitlin. Okay, so just also a backstory. So this was in 1980, and during this time, this was not known to the public. I believe it is known now. There were secretly under the base 25 fortified bunkers that were filled with lightweight but powerful nuclear bombs. There you go. You're welcome.
Easy to carry. Super lightweight, easy to carry. Still packs a punch.
The U.S. is like, well, we don't want to store these on our soil.
Yeah.
Give them to the Brits.
Yeah, put them over there.
Yes. Okay, so they started out with the famous Lieutenant Colonel Holt. He says in 1980, during their Christmas party, he and a small party witnessed lights in the forest. Not the Christmas party, but a party of individuals.
They weren't Christmas lights?
They were not Christmas
Okay.
lights, no.
Just checking.
That would be great if it was.
It's just like a Santa
No, right?
with a sleigh. I'm sorry, Father Christmas.
Oh, yeah,
No,
that's
back to
better.
you, so we've been talking too long. Okay, hopefully these don't
That's
cut
okay.
out. All right, so he and the small party witnessed lights in the forest. He describes it as being under intelligent control, then a beam of light going down to the ground. And he said it wasn't like a diffused beam of light, but it was more like a laser beam. And it was focused, this beam of light, and it was about 10 to 15 feet away from them. So they were really close to it. Then the craft flew north to the base towards the secret nuclear storage bunkers. He wrote a memo, which is also really well known, so I'm not going to go into it too much, where he wrote up the incident, and it somehow went public at the time, and some members of the public came forward saying basically they also witnessed something, so they were corroborating what he had said.
Right.
Then they spoke to Sergeant John Burroughs. He was an MP on the base, which is military police for the non-military people. And he went out that same night. There was another event that they were called to go check on. He and Sergeant Peniston, I don't know if Sergeant Peniston was an MP, I can't remember.
Yeah.
They went out to investigate it. And so he said later that night, another group of lights were seen in the forest, so they moved towards it. Light moved over top of them, and then John Burroughs phased out, and then he returned. Now, he said at the time, he didn't realize this. Sergeant Peniston was the one who told him this had happened. So he had no memory of it.
Right.
And he said that neither one of them remembered anything that happened until the next day. So that was that. Immediately after the incident, Burroughs started having some serious health issues. He went to the doctor. They found he was having some eye issues. He said at one point his gums turned white, which I believe is a symptom of radiation poisoning. So they went to the hospital later. They found he had a heart murmur, and he also had serious life-threatening scarring around his heart.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And he had no idea how any of this happened.
Wild.
So in 2012, Jim Peniston filed a claim with the VA to get like disability benefits because of this happened due to his exposure to whatever it was they saw.
Yeah.
He also talks about, they didn't talk about it in the show, but he also does talk about, I'm sorry, this is Burroughs, not Peniston. I want to say it was Peniston, maybe Lee, you remember, who saw the craft?
Yeah, he spent 45 minutes walking around the craft, taking photographs of the craft.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, he took photographs of the craft.
Yeah, and he saw pictures.
This craft was triangular shaped, and it landed. It landed.
Yes.
Cool.
But basically, he touched the craft, and he said, I can never say this word to help me out. Hieroglyphic?
Oh, there were like hieroglyphs on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like hieroglyphs on the side of the craft. He spent 45 minutes taking pictures of this craft, drawing it, making notes of it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What I can gather, the other guy, John Burroughs, was trapped in this sort of bubble of light.
Yeah, something. I think he just recalled seeing lights.
It just froze. It literally just froze. Now, I've seen John Burroughs because they did a talk at Rendlesham. There was a UFO talk at Rendlesham a few years ago, and John Burroughs was there. He was talking. He's enormous bloke.
Yeah.
But he mentioned the fact that this was 2014 when I saw them, but he mentioned the fact then that they've been fighting for years and years to get their medical records released.
Yeah.
So they could get help. But because the army, if they thought, well, if we release the medical record, we're basically owning up to what was happening there.
Not
enough that the photos that he took, I think the officials said, they didn't develop properly, or
Yeah, I'm sure there was some.
honest, mate,
They went missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably sitting in the Yeah, they're probably sitting in the MOD right now in some drawer, you know?
Yeah, so there was, a bunch of this they didn't go into in the show, but Rendlesham is a huge subject. There have been books written about it. Like, yeah, it's a huge, huge subject that we could do an entire episode on Rendlesham.
One last thing, which is really juicy, actually. A few years ago, the MOD released all their footage on UFOs, what they knew, basically, because they don't have someone working there investigating UFOs anymore. So they've been drip feeding the public for the last 5 or 6 years. The only stuff they haven't come out with is Rendlesham.
I was just going to say, they haven't released everything.
Well, they can't.
No, I know.
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
They're both still alive, yeah. Colonel Halt is as well. Yeah,
From
Colonel
what
Halt
they say is everything,
Colonel Halt wrote a book about it, and it was like, I think it was called like the Halt Perspective or something. It was like 700 or 800 pages about it.
Oh, yeah, he was at UFO Congress as well.
He's a bit dry. He's a little dry, but he's an interesting dude. Okay, so he was trying to get the benefits. This I thought was interesting too. While a doctor was reviewing his claim with him,
Dr. Fuckernuts.
Yeah, Dr. Fuckernuts was reviewing his claim. It was a woman, but yes, in his case. But she said that according to their records, he wasn't in the military in 1980. In the records, it stated he joined the military in 1982. But there is a recording that Colonel Halt made when he first went out. He and this other guy went out to see the lights in the beginning, the first one.
Yeah.
And he made a recording of himself while they were doing it. And he mentions John Burroughs in this recording. Right. So obviously John Burroughs was there.
Right.
Basically, I think Burroughs radioed them, do you need me to come out? And the other guy that was with Halt said, this is what he's saying. And he was like, no, tell Burroughs we don't need him just yet.
Yeah.
So he was there, but in the record, it officially stated he didn't join until 1982.
What the fuck?
Right. And then he was having trouble getting his medical records. He found out that his records were classified as top secret. And he worked with Cheryl Bennett, who was a former staffer for Senator John McCain. So she was working with John Burroughs to help him get these benefits. And she said, she's done this before with other VA vets or other vets, trying to get their records from the VA and helping them to get the disability benefits that they deserve. And she said that John's case was like no other she'd done. She said it was like pulling teeth trying to get these records, and they still don't have the records. They never were able to get them.
Sucks.
But Jim Peniston and John Burroughs are the only military personnel to receive military benefits after an encounter with these objects. They finally, it was recently, I remember when, did get disability benefits from this encounter.
That sucks.
Yeah. So, okay, just to wrap it up, they were saying, well, what are these unidentified objects? What are they? There were a couple options. Are they top secret craft that we have? Are they some sort of technology that another country has? Or are they something extraterrestrial? Are they something from outside of our planet? There is a theory, they said, that the UFO this is a theory that we all know about. There's a theory that the UFO subject is a way for the military to divert us from their experimental aircraft.
Even I know that.
Right? Yeah. Okay. That's a pretty common one.
Yeah.
They did mention, which I thought was interesting, Kirtland Air Force Base, they had, I can't remember when this was. I think it was, it's in the 80s. They had a massive stockpile of nuclear weapons and experimental aircraft. And there was a man in a neighborhood near, and I can't remember his name, and they didn't mention it on the show. He noticed the lights above this in the sky. He noticed lights above the sky. Oh my God, lights in the sky. He noticed lights in the sky above the Air Force Base. So he started recording them. And I think he did this over several nights. And then he went to the military to let them know and said, hey, I have these recordings I can show you. There's you might want to check this out.
Yeah.
So then Richard Doty.
I shot him dead. Yeah.
No. Richard, do you know about Richard Doty, Lee? Have you heard this story?
Richard Doty?
Yes.
No, I haven't heard of him, no.
All right, you should look him up. This is there was, I think, a documentary that talked about all of this. Richard Doty was assigned as a counterintelligence operative to work with the man. So basically, they sent Doty out to say, "What you're seeing is aliens," and he started giving him information about, like, from these aliens, saying, "We need your help." He's like, "You're doing a great service." So he was encouraging this man to believe that they were aliens, because basically he wanted to distract him from the experimental aircraft that was actually on the
Yeah,
base. So
it's disinformation, isn't it?
yeah, it is. Yeah. So basically he was a disinformation.
Why you gotta play him like that?
Yeah. Um, so
It's fucked up.
along with the lines of, like, that the UFO subject is a diversion created by the military, they said that also in the 80s, the Air Force put out UFO stories to see if the Russians were spying. So they put these stories out to see if it showed up
Oh,
in Russian intelligence.
it's interesting.
Yes. And they said many are questioning whether Lou Elizondo is a disinformation operative, because his background is in counterintelligence.
Oh,
So
okay.
he did. And
Yeah.
so they asked him straight out, like, "Lou, do you, how do you feel, like, about this? Are you kind of the new Richard Doty? Like, we know you're trained in counterintelligence. You're trained to deceive people." And his response was, "I am trained to deceive people, but I'm trained to deceive the enemy. I would never deceive the Americans. If they even asked me to do that, I wouldn't do it." All right.
Sure.
Take him
Yes,
out
that
the
must
word.
have fucking
Sure.
paying him, didn't it?
So
Well,
who knows?
yeah, we're double your wages, Lou.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All my
Alrighty.
morals have just gone out the window.
Fuck the
Right.
Americans.
When can I
Yeah.
start? When can I start?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I found interesting with the show is, they all kind of quit their jobs and came together to do this because they really wanted to push disclosure. That's what they're
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about this, but you watch
Yeah.
the show and it's interesting, but you can tell they're saying exactly what the government is telling them to say.
Well,
They are not just coming out and giving us this information.
Right.
I think they're like, the government is saying, "Okay, we want you to say this, we want you to say that, and we want you to say this." And they're either drip feeding us this information or it's bullshit.
right.
But I don't believe, sorry dudes, I don't believe that these guys came out on their own and said, "We're going to give you this information." I don't believe.
Right.
I don't
It's
buy it.
just what they're gonna
Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
exactly what they want you to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Or not know. It's leading the narrative,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I'm so smart.
Smarty pants.
It's called Knockdown Ginger.
Knock
That's what
down
it's
ginger.
Knock down ginger.
down
That's what they're
ginger.
doing.
That's the
Knock
name.
down
But-
ginger.
That's amazing.
Did
Yeah, so
you-
that's-
I think I've seen a video when I stayed with Eric in Arkansas.
One of our
Um,
friends, Eric, for the viewers who don't know Eric.
Yeah.
I don't need
Eric Mitchell, he's brilliant
What's up,
guy.
Eric?
Yeah, brilliant,
Shout out
brilliant
to Eric
guy.
Mitchell.
Well known in the UFO community. He speaks on stage about his own experiences and stuff like that. But we would watch all the YouTube stuff, and he showed me Louis. How'd you say his name? Elizondo,
Lou
isn't it?
Elizondo. Yeah, Lou
Louis
Elizondo.
Elizondo. I'm sure I saw a video clip of him saying this AA tip was one of. They didn't know at the time, but don't you? I saw
It's
those
not
eyebrows go.
Lou Elizondo talk about a tip.
Well, I'm saying nothing. He was one of this AA tip was one of 3
Sounds like AA.
secret UFO. Hey,
Sounds like you're saying AA tit.
AA tit. They were one of 3 UFO investigation teams.
Mm.
But all 3 of them didn't know about each other.
Oh, that's interesting. I
But
never knew that.
they all reported to the same person.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Oh, one of these days
So,
we'll get
but
into
they
that.
were all
Yeah.
unaware of each other. They were all unaware of each other. They thought they were the only one.
That's how
but
the
they-
government and the military works.
I think it's how it's always been.
Yeah.
though.
It's a need to know basis.
yeah.
Well, yeah, need to know. But yeah, I'm sure there's a bit. Yeah, I'm sure that's what I can remember or recall, that they thought they were the only one, but they were one of 3.
Yeah.
I think having it be need to know, it's interesting to me. Like, why now?
Right.
Why all of a sudden are we okay? Is it okay to go, okay, here's all this information?
Right.
Like, what's happening? What's happening that we don't know of?
Yeah.
That's letting
Yeah.
that's this is like a buildup to something. That's what I feel.
I think people are pushing for it more now, like during presidential campaigns, there are people like Hillary was saying, if I get elected president, I will, release the UFO files, or at least as much as I can without, endangering national security, if that's the case. They are discussing this. This is a topic of discussion, which I don't think has been before. And then back in, I think it was the 50s, there was, no, maybe it was before that. There was a radio show. I think it was, who was it? Lawrence Welk?
War of the Worlds.
Yes, we did War of the Worlds, and everybody thought that we were being invaded, and so they freaked out.
Right.
And so for the longest time, they felt that, well, we can't tell the American public this because they just can't handle it.
Right.
So we're going to keep this under wraps. And that snowballed and kind of became, even just Eisenhower talked about it, like, this is just out of control at this point. Like, even we don't have any control over the military at this point in time, and the government, because they've just taken it and run with it. And so they're their own entity at this point in time. So, it is interesting that they're now doing it, but I think, I think that they realize that people are better able to handle it. And I think that's why we're getting these small little tidbits. I think they're just kind of like, okay, let's see if how they handle this.
Okay.
Yeah, strip feeding, isn't it? Strip feeding.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Lynn.
Hey, no problem.
Good job.
Thanks.
Good job filling us in on the Tic Tacs of the world.
The supersonic Tic Tac.
Supersonic Tic Tacs. That's going to be my new band name. with the album title, Push Over a Ginger. What the fuck is the name here? What's the
Push Over Ginger? Knock Down Ginger.
Knock Down Ginger.
That's great.
Yeah, I'll send you a link, Caitlin.
To Knock Down.
And what's your one called? Ding Dong Digit, isn't it?
Ding Dong Ditch. Yeah. It's pretty
Ding
literal.
Yeah.
Dong
You
and
ding.
ditch.
Well, you don't ding the dong. That's a different game you play when you're older. And on that note, well, thank you guys for listening. Again, as always, it's a pleasure to torture you for X amount of time. Thanks to our new subscribers and the continuing kind of teeny tiny growth and support, and we really appreciate that. So now you need to tell your friends, bitches. Like, if you like it, cool. Don't keep it to yourself. Like, share it with the world.
Right. Get the word out.
Tell your doctor. Tell your grocery store clerk. Tell the guy who's pumping your gas. Like, tell them all.
I thought you were going to say something else then.
Yeah, maybe go do some push over ginger. I can't.
Do knock down ginger, but don't run away. When
don't run away.
Tell them about the show.
Just be like the Mormons. Just go door to door. Is it Mormons? Who the fuck goes door to door? Just preach the word.
Can't remember.
Of two broads and a Brit. How desperate was that? That was like 20 minutes of desperate pleading. I'm just kidding. So just, we really appreciate the support that we've gotten and the cool comments and all that stuff. You guys are awesome. We're loving it. So keep it coming. And I have no idea what the order of our shows are going to be. We may potentially have a special guest in our next episode, but I'm not sure, so I may be lying. If I am, great. If not, fuck. So I guess that's it for today. You guys will see us next time or hear us next time, and we're looking forward to all that crap. Oh, we have an Instagram now, so
yay!
Find us on Instagram.
Yay. Who knows what pictures we'll put up, but there'll be something.
Ding dong pictures. I'm just kidding. So
a lot of gingers knocked over.
So many gingers. So thanks again. Until next time. And I just want you guys to go and have a great day and go fuck yourselves.
Yay! I'm ready for that.
There it is. Bye.
Go fuck yourself as well.
Welcome to Two Broads and a Brits.
You sound like you were delivering the worst. Actually, listen, you sound like you were delivering. Welcome to bad news.